You know, part of me has always wondered whether we would ever reach a day where XDefiant would actually launch. This game has been plagued by development and technical delays something fierce, and given that we were originally expecting to see this game drop mid to late last year, it's spent a lot of time cooking in the oven. Has it been worth the wait? G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today I'm happy to report that XDefiant is a pretty damn fun addition to your first-person shooter library. And while it may not be the quote-unquote COD killer, it's certainly come out at a very important time. Let's unpack that. Now, I've got to admit here, guys, to me, XDefiant could not have come out at a better time. Now, sure, the wait has been long, and we were meant to get this game a while ago, but we're very much stuck in a bit of a lull period when it comes to first-person shooter games at the moment, so to have something new to play right now is timely at best. And more broadly, I think this game is actually a very important injection into the first-person shooter scene at the moment. I did want to dive into that a bit later in the video, but I also did want to take some time here today to go over some of my initial thoughts of the game here as well. There's a lot of good, but also a lot of meh to bad here as well, and I want to try and get through as much of it as possible. As a small disclaimer, I am a part of the Ubisoft Creator Network and was provided some extra in-game goodies upon installing the game as a content creator. That's obviously got no weight on today's video and my review of the game, but a big thanks does go out to Ubisoft ANZ in particular for supporting the channel in that capacity. But let's talk about XDefiant as a package as to how it's launched today. Is it actually worth your time? Now, to address the elephant in the room here, I was under the impression that there were some significant matchmaking issues with this game when it first launched. I didn't experience this as I got into the game long after the issues were solved. You know, sometimes being an Australian and having games launch during your workday or while you're fast asleep actually has its benefits. However, I can report that the matchmaking issues have been long resolved and the game is playing as it should be in that capacity. I'm getting matches quickly, without delay, and that's been really good to see. In addition, the core network stability of the game has drastically improved since I last played it back in the beta days. Dying around corners is far less common these days than what it was in the beta, and the hit reg does feel a bit snappier by comparison, which is arguably one of the most important things to get squared away for what is meant to be a tight, fast-paced arena shooter, so props to Ubisoft and the developers for managing that. But that's also not to say that it doesn't happen at all. I still do die around corners from time to time with this game, and there is definitely some work that needs to be done there because it can get quite infuriating quite quickly, especially when you die around the corner from, say, a sniper rifle kill, and that is something we'll also touch on later in this video. But to loop back to the topic of matchmaking here real quick, guys, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that there is now an FPS game out there on the market, that being XDefiant, that doesn't jam an overly excessive, skill-based matchmaking algorithm down our throats in the casual mode here? Like, seriously, the gameplay experience that I've had in XDefiant between matches has had so much more variety to it by comparison to the competitors out there who are jamming SBMM down my throat on a regular occurrence. There are games where I've stomped my enemies, there are games where I have been stomped, and then there are games where it's been down to the wire. And that balance has produced such a far more enjoyable experience than being locked in what feels like a competitive tournament where I'm fighting for a $1 million prize pool every single game I play. I don't feel like the game is going to actively punish me if I have a good round and score a crazy KDR. I can get into the groove for a session and score some awesome KDs without having the game going, "Fun detected, exterminate." That has been an incredible change of pace in this first-person shooter industry through XDefiant, and has made the game profoundly more enjoyable for me, and is one of the core reasons I think I'll be coming back at the moment. But then again, the lack of a skill-based matchmaking algorithm in casual play means lickety-squat if the game itself isn't actually that fun. So, from a gameplay perspective, I'm also happy to report that the majority of the game is something I actually find myself really vibing with. And a lot of that comes from the fact that all of the elements of the game that I am enjoying just feels like a big old callback to the Call of Duty games of yesteryear. It feels simple, it feels grounded, it feels as though it's a reflection on a time gone by, where if you wanted to just simply log in for a simple shoot 'em up, you could. And it almost feels as though XDefiant celebrates that in its gameplay. It celebrates being a more grounded, simple shooter. It's not trying to do anything too bold here, and when it does, it kind of stumbles over itself actually a little little bit. The key point there being the operators, but I'll get into that a bit more shortly. It just feels like it takes the foundation that's been set from previously successful first-person shooter games and kind of modernizes them slightly. The gunplay and the time to kill in the game in particular offer a lot of opportunity for counterplay and skill expression in firefights, and that's something that I am adoring in XDefiant here. The game definitely sports a longer time to kill than what you would come to expect from an arena-based shooter as of late, which means that aim consistency, tracking targets through movement, outmaneuvering in combat, and cracking headshots is going to win you the day here, which in of itself creates an approachable yet enjoyable skill curve and skill gap to climb in this game, which I appreciate seeing. We are going to be doing some videos soon about how you can navigate the skill gap in XDefiant soon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, so you can keep up to date with all of that new content when it drops. For the most part as well, weapon balance in this game also feels pretty schmick. Every weapon that I've used so far has felt unique and like it caters to a specific playstyle or role in the game, or even in its weapon category, for example. And I very much like that. I remember seeing a lot of criticism coming this game's way when it announced how many weapons would be in the game at launch, that being 24 in total, I think, only for a lot of people to come out and say, well, that's not a lot of content, there's not a lot of weapons there, what's happening? And while I can agree with that to a certain extent, I also feel as though the quality over quantity approach has been taken here, and there's been an extra effort to make sure that all of the weapons that are in the game feel unique and that there's no overlap, and that much I very like. On the back of the decent gunplay at its core, this makes the shooting experience of the game feel solid, while also keeping it fresh as you switch between said weapons. Also, the maps in this game. I don't think I've had a map so far that I've played that I've genuinely disliked in its totality. There is not a single map that has come up so far where I feel the emasculine urge to just go, oh, and leave the lobby in retaliation. There's not too much verticality there, there's enough lanes for flanking opportunities, but also not so many to the point where the maps don't flow well and become confusing in nature. Genuinely, the map design in this game is pretty top tier, and every single map I've played on so far, especially given there are some that are designed for certain game modes, has facilitated the gameplay very well. That much must be praised. And I also think that the movement, just in general, is also really well done here. I think it's not too fast, not too slow. There's opportunity for movement counterplay in gunfights, while not making the game feel too zippy for its own good. And the combination of grounded movement and good map design has also limited the verticality in the game, which again makes the whole gameplay experience a little bit less confusing. So yeah, the core elements of the game have got me pretty damn well hooked, and I think overall we've got a really enjoyable first-person shooter experience on our hands here. However, there are certainly some negatives that have come with XDefiant and its launch, and that cannot be ignored here either. The big one, and I think it's a bugbear that a lot of the community are sharing at the moment, is that the progression of this game is far too slow. Now, this is a free-to-play game with a battle pass, and it's got all the microtransactions that you would expect to see as a result of that, but it's very clear that the weapon progression is currently designed to heavily incentivize the purchase of weapon XP boosters. As I unlock some new weapons and tried to start grinding out attachments on said weapons, I really quickly detected that it takes around about 35 kills with that gun alone to unlock the first attachment. And that in of itself is wild. I'm someone who's a pretty aggressive, relatively high skill player, right? You know, I'm someone who's been dropping 20 to 30 kill games on the regular, but I'm still progressing at an absolute snail's pace. So if anyone who plays this game superbly casually or is not that high skill a player, they are going to severely struggle in unlocking attachments in this game right now, and it's going to make the overall experience feel frustrating from that perspective. So yeah, that needs to be addressed super quick. I'm not saying it needs to be revamped to the point where you unlock everything in one night, but right now the XP progression rate is super slow. In 10 hours of gameplay, I've only just managed to max out the M4A1 progression tree, not including the mastery camos. And that says a lot right there. And this pushes me on to my next bugbear with the game right now: the operators and the current balance around some of their abilities. Now, look, don't get me wrong, guys. The operators I consider to be a necessary addition to the game to make it unique enough and actually have a place in the industry. Otherwise, it would just be an incredibly generic shooter with no character whatsoever. The operators and the abilities in this game are the character that gives XDefiant a tad bit of uniqueness in the field. However, there are a ton of abilities in this game that require a significant amount of rebalancing for them to be healthy additions overall. For one, the riot shield character. If you see one of these bad boys in front of you and they just start sprinting at you, you're dead. You're not going to be able to deal with them unless you have a teammate come along and, you know, get a flank tank on them. The intel and the cloaking suit that's available to the Echelon faction are also a little bit busted at the moment. The intel suit is essentially, I think, a 15-second long wall hack that basically gives you free reign of intel over the map for that short period of time. And then you've got the cloaking suit, which, yes, will remain cloaked until you shoot with it, which means that you can technically sit there cloaked with a sniper rifle or a shotgun, shoot your weapon while cloaked, and on the enemy screen, they will die and then see you come out of cloak. The ability should never have had that functionality, and that needs to be addressed ASAP. The firebomb ability available to the cleaners faction is also a key offender when it comes to breaking the balance of this game as well. You may get the drop on a cleaner at close quarters, and they can just drop this firebomb on you immediately and potentially one-hit kill you out of the game entirely, which for a game with a longer than average time to kill feels incredibly imbalanced, especially given how aggressive and how CQC focused this game actually is. And speaking of one-hit kill abilities and, you know, time to kill imbalances in that regard, we've got to talk about sniper rifles in this game right now. Sniper rifles, and I know there are going to be people in the comments saying this is a skill issue, are obnoxious as hell in this game right now. And I want to say the key offender in that field is definitely the TAC-50 right now. The TAC-50 being able to one-hit kill you on anywhere in the body means that basically it invalidates the lengthier time to kill that the game brings to the table, and it allows players who have been sort of really taken off guard with that sniper rifle and put in a bad position can just cheese their way out of it, quite frankly. There's no other better way to word it. The M44 by comparison does require you to score a headshot to get a one-hit kill on a full health target, and I'm a bit more comfortable with that as a balancing tactic for, say, a game with a longer time to kill. It just feels like that when you are playing a game that has such a lengthened time to kill and someone can just one-tap you by scoring a shot on your knee, for example, that it completely takes the sort of skill curve and skill expression out of the equation with that weapon. So snipers feel obnoxious right now, and I feel like some tweaking with the TAC-50 in particular will help to address that. The sound design in the game also needs a bit of work. I find footsteps to be a little bit hit and miss right now, and there are times where I just won't hear someone coming up behind me where I feel like I really should. So that would be nice to see addressed. But yeah, those are my key experiences and impressions with XDefiant as a game so far at the moment, and despite the negatives that I have outlined there, I am really enjoying the game so far. I think it's got a lot of potential just to be a fun shooter that sits in my library that I go romp around with from time to time as I feel the need to with my mates. And that's a key point I do want to touch on here at the end of this video, guys, because overall, I don't think XDefiant is going to be the COD killer that many are dubbing it to be. Yes, it's got a lot of qualities, and yes, it's a whole lot of fun, but XDefiant is not here to be the Call of Duty killer. The only thing that will kill Call of Duty as a franchise will be Call of Duty, and quite frankly, they've been doing a pretty good job at doing that as of late, having to walk back controversial changes they've made over the past few years and then slapping a, sequel title on the game and calling it a done deal as a new full-length feature game. But no, XDefiant here is not necessarily trying to steal that audience or not necessarily trying to be the game that destabilizes COD, because a game that relies on the failure of another game in of itself is not going to be a quality game. And while XDefiant has listened to the community and listened to what they are after based on their feedback to other shooters, it's trying to also do its own thing. And I think for that reason alone, it'll cultivate a very die-hard community that stick with XDefiant thanks to its qualities and its quirks. But for most people, it's going to be a flavor add that people will get sick of over time, but return to periodically as new content comes out. And you know what? That is perfectly fine, because this game is a legitimate AAA competition to the likes of the Call of Duty franchise. The first of which that we've actually seen in a very long time, dare I argue. And that is the most important thing that XDefiant can be to the Call of Duty franchise. Not a killer, but genuine competition. We as a community, and the gaming industry in general, thrives when there's competition. It's why it's good that there's a console war out there. It's why it's good that there are multiple games vying for your interest in the exact same genre. That competition breeds innovation among game developers, and it breeds a requirement to continue trying to be better. And then we as the consumers will decide which of those takes the cake. And while XDefiant may not be the clear winner in this battle, the fact that they are putting up a battle in the first place is an excellent thing for us gamers. And on that note, folks, that wraps up today's video talking XDefiant. If you guys enjoyed the video, please backhand the like button, as it does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you guys are new, consider subscribing. We've got a lot of XDefiant content coming your way, as well as a lot of other videos on other FPSs as well. It's going to be a very exciting period for the channel. I also stream live on Twitch almost 3 to 4 times a week, so also come check out the Twitch channel, linked in the description down below as well. In the meantime, guys, hope you all enjoyed this one. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.